What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22. Last time out it was the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, a race that typically goes pretty well for me. Last time, if you watched, it did not. I was about a second a lap slower than everyone else. I think that the AI straight line speed in this game may be a tad busted, but we move forward, changing some components in time for the Canadian Grand Prix, which is what we'll be doing here today. This is a race I've never been particularly strong at, so I'm not anticipating that this is going to be a particularly novel experience as far as performance is concerned. But we'll see.
Expecting some new developments to come through, but some of them have failed quality control. We'll need to tell the team what to redevelop via the R&D screen.
And that's okay. That's not a big deal. We'll get that on the car in time for Silverstone still, and it should absolutely be fine. But it does mean that will be a week later than we initially anticipated, which is a bit frustrating, but it should be all right. We have a supplier upgrade from Renault, who have given us a new engine component, which hopefully should bring us closer to the people around us when it comes to straight line speed. But obviously in the current market, it's not guaranteed that is going to be the case. So yeah, that's that. And next up is the Pirelli hot lap, which obviously, as per usual, I'm just going to kind of fast forward through, and we're not gonna really pay attention to it. It was an autocross, but we did get gold, which was pretty nice. It was quite close in the end. I was within a second of the goal time, but I did manage to meet the goal time. So yeah, $100,000, 1,000 acclaim, and that's a nice way to start the weekend. And I think shortly after we look at some things, I think we're looking at the price of Christian Lundgaard. He's currently 1.5 mil. He'll probably go up to 2 before contract renewal comes in. Maybe even he might go up 1 more, but he'll definitely be at least 2 mil to retain on the team for next season. If he wants to even re-sign for us, but maybe he's thinking, well, I signed up to be on a good team, and this team's kind of gone downhill since I've been here, so I'm jumping ship. The irony of the situation is, if he does that, he'll probably find himself not in a team for half a season. So we'll see what the preferable outcome is for him. So yeah, he's going to cost us a bit, and we're now getting into the race weekend, and it's time for practice. Practice here, I don't know, typically, like you can see here, I don't really accrue much tyre wear, which has always been a consistent theme around Canada. It's very, very kind on the tyres, I've always found. But as for lap times, it tells a very different story. You see I got close on a couple of occasions, but I couldn't meet the target lap time, and that might have been a bad omen for the weekend, I was thinking. But I was P8, but it was a rain disrupted session, so I don't know if I can take too much away from it. Lundgaard was nearly a second behind me on the same tyres, so that was an optimistic sign at least. But I've been optimistic before in places like Monaco, Baku, Imola, and they've ended up telling a very different story to the optimism I was showing at the start of the weekend. So yeah, that was a bit of a frustration, but it wasn't too big of a deal. I really just want to be able to compete with Christian Lundgaard again, because it's really starting to annoy me how he's just consistently ahead of me when it comes to qualifying in the race weekend. You'd think someone who's only, is he like 66 rated maybe at this point? He's not highly rated at all. We don't have any facility upgrades for our second driver, and still he's consistently outperforming me. I think we've got to ask questions about ourselves, like what's going on that's making us perform this poorly. As he does make it up to rank 8, so he will now cost 2 million. But we also make it to team rank 10, which means we'll be able to sign a new sponsor, and that's a nice sign, because it means we'll be able to get a bit more money. I also think sponsor renewal is coming up pretty soon, so we can finally get rid of this qualifying P15 objective that never ever pays out, because I think it requires both me and Lundgaard to be P15, which obviously is proving to be a bit of a challenge. So with the current upgrades that we've got going on the car, it should be enough to catch Williams, but I'm sure that they'll have their own coming onto the car. Now it's time to get into qualifying. This is really going to set the tone for the weekend as far as I'm concerned. You know, if I can get a good qualifying, I think we're probably going to be in with a good chance in the race, but what do I know? It could be like those races I've had before where I have a really good qualifying and then the race comes around and we just go backwards. So here we are at the end of my first flying lap, and you know, we come up to the line. It felt like a pretty decent lap, nothing too special, but it was, you know, it's alright, and it was good enough for a 1:12.3. Only half a tenth off of Vettel, so that was nice to see, as Vettel is you know, one of the cars around me who I'd like to be competing with. And now here we come up to the end of my second lap. You see I'm just about ahead on the Delta, only by like a tenth or so, and in the end it is good enough for P22. We were doing well all throughout the session in like P15, and then you're telling me that we fell to P22 in the dying moments? Okay. So yeah, pretty much everyone improved. Lundgaard 2.5 tenths ahead of us. I don't know how this keeps happening. I really don't get it. Like I don't get what more I can do. I've even started turning the difficulty down now. You know, we're down to 89, where we started on 90. So you know, I guess I could keep dialing back the difficulty over and over again, but I don't know, it feels like a pretty artificial way. And also, the only reason that the AI is superior to me is in the straights, which isn't going to be fixed by changing the difficulty. So I really don't know what to do. You know, I guess just try and make the car faster, but that's still, like, Lundgaard's going to be faster than me. It just means I'm going to be able to compete with cars behind me when I should be, you know, fighting at the front of the field. I don't know. Pre-race, he's telling us to make sure to drink. I think I need to turn to drink if this continues going on the way it's been going at the moment. And yeah, now it's time to get into the race weekend.
Hello and welcome to the Ile Notre Dame once again for what promises to be another incredible Canadian Grand Prix at this fiercely competitive circuit, where pole position can often be decided by less than a tenth of a second. We'll be seeing top speeds of around 210 miles per hour here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 2/3 of the lap taken at full throttle. High-speed chicanes spell potential danger, especially at the infamous Wall of Champions, and watch out for overtaking into the hairpin and that final chicane. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Russell, Max Verstappen and Perez, Magnussen, Norris, Bottas and Daniel Ricciardo, Mick Schumacher, Ocon, Guan Yu Zhou and Latifi, Albon, Vettel, Christian Lundgaard and Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, they've taken a grid penalty, Robinson, Tsunoda and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Alongside me to discuss all the action today is Natalie Pinkham. Thanks for joining us, Natalie. And tell me, you were down in the pit lane earlier. How do you think the track conditions are today?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So, with the cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
I got bad news for you, Mark. I don't know if your faith is particularly well placed. It's going to be a tricky one fighting our way back from P20. You know, maybe there's some carnage up front, but, you know, unlike everyone around me at the moment, I seem to be having completely chaos-free races.
Right, let's get the car up to temperature on this lap, please. We're loading
Like, what the hell was up
fuel.
with Baku?
When you can.
11 people DNF in qualifying, and you're telling me nobody crashes out in the race? Seriously? And it's been a similar thing for a number of these races, as far as I can tell. You know, this whole like driver mistakes thing does not seem to be happening to me so far, at least. Maybe it'll come true in the future. But I've been seeing people who have like 5 drivers crashing out in the same race, and then there's me, who's like, yeah, you get one mechanical DNF, and also everyone's faster than you all race weekend.
Okay, good parking there, mate. Now we need to make sure we get a great launch as the race.
So, it is time. The lights come on, and the lights go out. And it's a pretty good start, all things considered. We get ahead of Alonso, and we're challenging with Gasly and Lundgaard as we go down the line into turn 1. I have to get out of the throttle there a little bit, because I really didn't want to go into the back of Vettel. I didn't want to have a repeat of Miami, where yeah, we just sailed into the back of Verstappen, I believe it was, on that occasion. Lundgaard actually ends up getting a pretty decent run out of turn 1. And so he's, or out of turn 2 rather, and he's challenging with the likes of Vettel and Albon ahead of us. And I think we are going to do something similar if we can catch with them. But obviously, you know, they've got superior traction and straight line speed because the AI in this game is a bit of a handful at the moment. So, you know, I've got to really think about how I'm going to make these overtakes work if I want to make them work. It's going to have to be into corners mostly, like through braking zones, and as we go like fight through corners as well. So we get up the inside of Albon through that hairpin, but now you see Vettel is a long way. He's like 8 tenths ahead already, and Albon is going to challenge us as we go on the run down to the final chicane. So it's like, you know, we can't really make an overtake at the moment without exposing ourselves, in the sense that, you know, the DRS range that we get to the cars ahead massively. We lose out on the delta to the cars in front. So we got ahead of Vettel, and then Lundgaard locked up, which allowed us to momentarily challenge him, but or he blocks us something nasty there, but that's fine. Yeah, him with the superior traction is able to get back ahead, and already he's 5 tenths up the road. It's just ridiculous. So here we are going down the sort of middle straight on the track. It's not really a straight, it's kind of a bend, but you know, you get DRS there, so it's kind of a straight, and you see Vettel getting ahead of us there as we go down, and then we're being challenged by Albon here as well as we go into the as we go down the run to the hairpin. I believe that is Gasly as well who's challenging us. And what's happening here? Oh, we dive up the inside of all 3 of them. Wow, all 3 cars. You know, we were being challenged by Gasly. Albon and Vettel were comfortably ahead of us, and we got ahead of all of them. Because that's just how I roll. You know, I don't adhere to these quote-unquote rules of you know, how you're supposed to overtake people. I think I get slightly nudged there as Tsunoda comes into the pits, assumedly to deal with some damage. But yeah, I had to go really slowly through the chicane because I got kind of squeezed, I think, by Vettel. Now that DRS has been enabled, I anticipate I'm going to be in 21st pretty soon, because, you know, with DRS, and I'm kind of out of battery now as well, I just can't contend with cars around me. It's not really something that's possible, and Vettel just breezes past there. Like, there's nothing I can do. Absolutely nothing I can do. And I really sincerely hope that things improve swiftly. As Albon challenges up our inside, we go around the outside at turn 1, and through turn 2 we are able to keep ahead of them. And then as we get to lap 7, you can see that Albon and Gasly have switched places now, and Gasly's putting a lot of pressure on us. You know, we were able to keep these guys behind for a few laps, but yeah, now he just, with DRS and battery, just breezes past into the chicane, and just nothing I can do. And even if he does make a mistake, he'll probably be so far ahead by the time that he does that I just, there's no point. defend to the inside this time on Albon, and we're really making his race a misery because we're just separating him from the cars that he probably wants to be challenging alongside. But you know, I don't care. It's my race too, you know. But yeah, lap 9 eventually he does the same thing where he's just so much faster than me in a straight line that it's almost a non-contest. You know, I'm trying everything I can, but it's just not enough in the tank, not enough in my traction. I don't know. I really feel like the AI in a straight line just feels completely overpowered in this game compared to recently. Like, look at that. Like, look at how much he's pulling away from me through every corner. You know, there was always a few corners where it was like that in last year's game. One of them was in Canada, going into the middle straight on the track. As Stroll gets past us on lap 13. But and then there was also out of the hairpin at Suzuka. You know, AI always seemed to get superior traction through there, but now like it just feels like it's every single corner on every single track. And the funny thing is, I've been doing driver career as well as coming to the pits, and you know, F2 doesn't seem to have the same problems from what I can tell. You know, sometimes the drivers will be a bit fast in a straight line, but for the most part, I can contend with them. So I really don't get, you know, even at Monaco I was able to keep people behind, which is something I couldn't do at Monaco in F1. So I don't know, but maybe that's just because there's no ERS in F1. Maybe it's a battery thing, or in F2 rather. Maybe it's a battery thing. Maybe the AI's like battery stores are completely busted or something like that. So yeah, Tsunoda and Alonso actually came out ahead of us through the pit stop, so that saved us the misery of being overtaken by 2 more cars, and now we're on lap 25 and it's just we're just being lapped now basically. We're in this phase of the Grand Prix where Leclerc's going ahead. He actually gives us a massive squeeze there, which causes us to make contact with him. It felt a bit unnecessary and I don't really know why he did it, but he did. And then the following lap, in pretty much exactly the same place, Hamilton comes through and is able to get ahead of us as we slow down here to allow him through. You know, I'd already consigned my fate to be, I'm out of this race, there's nothing more I can really do, so I'm just going to enjoy myself, get some practice laps in, see if I can understand the car a bit better, but alas, I feel like I'm not going to understand this car. I feel like we just need some upgrades, but you know, they're not going to come for many seasons yet, so we still got an uphill battle to fight here, as I believe this is Sainz is now going through, and we actually go a bit deep into the hairpin here, but there's not much we can do. I don't know what that incident was about, but it seems to be fine. You know, 3 laps later, I've not seen anything to suggest that there was any kind of debris or anything like that. Verstappen and Russell now go through for 3rd and 4th, which I thought was a bit weird because I'm sure I'd already been lapped by 3 cars, but I didn't think too much about it. And then lap 33, you might see on my mini-map, I've got a Ferrari behind me as Esteban Ocon retires from the session. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. So I was a bit confused because I was sure I'd already been lapped by Leclerc and Sainz, so I didn't really know what was going on there. But yeah, so Esteban Ocon is out of the Grand Prix. Like I said, we'll get a replay of what happened to him in just a moment. We get blue flags to the car behind, and if I pan behind me, I don't know if I will. And oh wow, also Sebastian Vettel is out on the exact same lap as Esteban Ocon. So that's 2 retirements in the dying laps of the race, literally like the final laps of the race basically, as Leclerc goes through again. I guess that must be what the problem was earlier, is that he got some damage maybe when he was lapping someone and he had to pit again, so that's gutting for him because he was in the lead of the race. So yeah, we drove past Ocon and Vettel. Here we are looking at Ocon now, and we're going to see exactly what happened to him. Okay, it's an engine failure. Wow, okay. That doesn't bode well because he's got the same thing in the back of his car that we've got in ours, so probably we're overdue an engine failure at this point. We've only had one so far this season and we've got the most unreliable engine on the grid. So, yeah, and then now we're riding with Vettel in pretty much the exact same place, and there's a puff of smoke out the back of his car as well. So it's another engine failure. This time it's a Mercedes engine failure, of course. But yeah, 2 engine failures, pretty much exactly the same place on exactly the same lap. Just you know, they weren't side by side. There was no collision between the 2 of them or anything like that. It was just 2 honest to God engine failures. So at least we're not coming 22nd, eh?
11.5 seconds.
But yeah, that was quite worrying to see that Esteban Ocon's engine was failing. Obviously, I know that Alonso has had a couple of failures this season already. Actually, I think Lundgaard has managed to escape scot-free for the most part. I haven't seen him with any engine failures whatsoever. But we've obviously had the one. And as we come to the line, it is going to be P20. And yeah, unfortunately, it's just another one of those races. I feel like there was nothing I could do that would have improved my result there. I'm driving flat out, and I can't contend with these cars around me as Pierre Gasly gets driver of the day. And now we'll see. Charles Leclerc didn't win the race in the end. It was none other than Sir Lewis Hamilton, number 44. He continues his streak of finishing at least one race every season first.
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Well, Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So yeah, only 10 points for Leclerc in his championship bid, and everyone else behind him, the first 4 cars behind him at least, get promoted up a place, which is going to be good for some of these guys' championship hopes. Obviously, you remember I said Hamilton, Verstappen and Perez were a little bit behind, but Carlos Sainz is going to be revelling in that. A P2, and his nearest championship rival, I believe, was Russell, who only got P4, so yeah, a good result for him. And in the end, it's Hamilton, Sainz, Verstappen, so one from every team that was in the sort of the front-running contention.
And with his performance today, Carlos Sainz assumes the top spot in the championship standings.
So now there's no points in it between Sainz and Russell. It is neck and neck. Leclerc 11 behind, and Hamilton starting to close down a little bit. We now down in 21st after Latifi gets a decent result at his own Grand Prix, and Lundgaard down in 22nd. It's not going well for us. We're having a bit of a Haas 2021 type season, and we're still rock bottom of the Constructors' Championship as well.
And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
This really can't keep happening though. It just can't. I can't. I don't know how many more races I can do like this, where it's just, you know, I get a decent start and then I spend the whole race going backwards. I think I've overtaken one car like all season basically that wasn't in the first couple of laps, and that was Alex Albon at the Australian Grand Prix. You know, that's the only time I distinctly remember closing someone down on pace and overtaking them. Obviously, there were a few in other places where people had like issues or whatever, but that's the only overtake I feel like I've made all season that actually came as a result of me having superior pace to one of the cars in front of me. That's like, this is race number 9 now, and that's the only instance I can think of that. I'm starting to ask myself, why bother showing up? You know, I might as well just enter the Grand Prix, start the race, and then just pull my car over to the side, because that's, you know, that's the equivalent of what's going on here, really. I know obviously we get promoted up the order because we've been pretty reliable so far, but also that scares me a little bit, in the sense that, well, in you know, future races, what's to say that we're not going to have a bunch of unreliability problems, and we're going to have a ton of DNFs when we actually start getting into good position. Obviously, that's just speculation because there's no guarantee we will start getting into good position. But I know that there are a run of races, you know, coming up in the next like, I don't know, 5 or 6 races on the calendar that I typically go quite well at. You know, Imola's usually a good one for me. Not Imola. Monza is usually a good one for me. But before that, you've got Spa, which I sometimes do alright at. Britain, you know, Team's home race is coming up next, and you know, I'm typically pretty strong around there. And then you've also got things like Austria, France, races that I did an online career mode with my friends where I was driving in a Haas, and granted it was on a little bit of a lower difficulty than I was expecting, but I was able to win the French Grand Prix, where I was otherwise finishing, you know, sort of around the sort of top 10 sort of area. So France is a race I go really strongly at, and what happens if I just have another race like this where I'm just going backwards all the time? I just don't think I could stomach it. Something has to change, and something has to change soon. We need a run of form. But for now we are, yeah, it's going to be P20. But apparently we're still doing what the game expects, because we're not losing any acclaim. And we're almost up to acclaim level 8, which will be good, because it means we'll be able to afford some more driver perks, get some more resource points in the car. Obviously we failed the sponsorship bonus, but we'll get some new sponsors on the car soon. We don't make that much money, and that's going to be it. If you enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe, follow my TikTok, join my Discord, all that nice stuff, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.